Hello and welcome to the Flaneur-Exploring. It's a coolish Thursday afternoon in the City of London, and we're going to be walking down Cheapside, one of those streets that links the western edges of the city to its eastern edges. Cheapside takes its name from cheap, a Saxon word for a market, and there are lots of markets, food markets around here, and that's seen in other names that lead off Cheapside, like Bread Street and Milk Street. And as well as connecting the western edges to the eastern edges of the city, the street would also connect the southern end of the Roman Watling Street with the main city settlements to the east. I'm going to dive into one of the great stories of Cheapside. This was a discovery by a workman in 1912. The Cheapside Hoard is the greatest single collection of Elizabethan and Stuart jewellery in the world and can be found in the Museum of London. It's mind-blowing to know that for over 400 years buried treasure lay undisturbed below one of London's busiest streets. And I've dropped in a picture of some of the treasures found in the 1912 discovery, but of course if you want to see it in its entirety then go to the Museum of London, or when it reopens again, which I believe will be in possibly 2025. Once again, we've made it into one of these side alleys and side streets in the City of London, and once again, also, thanks to Ian Visits for the information. The great historian John Stowe said that it was created by King Edward III so that he could watch jousting from an elevated space, but I know that Ian Visits discredits this opinion due to lack of space. The alley was also home to Kennan's Hotel, which advertised itself as offering refined accommodation for businessmen, but closed down in 1917, after which Crown Court was dominated by commercial offices. Again, it's another discovery for me. I've walked up and down Cheapside for 40 years, and before tonight I'd never noticed this place. And in past times it must have been a haven of peace in what was once a very busy thoroughfare, though with traffic calming schemes today and congestion charges, Cheapside is a very quiet place compared to how it was even 30 or 40 years ago. And in the Middle Ages it was known as West Cheap as opposed to East Cheap, which we've explored a few times in the eastern part of the City of London and very close to my office. We're now just going to take a quick glance down Honey Lane Market. Now this was a historic market in the City of London. As I said previously, we're going to see lots of street names today with food associations. Edward Hatton noted that in 1708 the market was known for its meat, fish and poultry. We're now looking at this quite overbearing sign for Bow Lane. Now, Bow Lane came from the church, which we'll see later. It was not used as the name for this lane until the mid-16th century. Prior to being named Bow Lane, the other part of the lane was called Cordwainer Street, with the upper part approaching Cheapside named Hosier Lane due to the hosiers who lived in this part of the lane. Now we can see the inscription to the famous John Milton, poet and statesman, who was born in nearby Bread Street. The present church is the work of Sir Christopher Wren, of course, following the Great Fire of London in 1666. And as many of you may know, according to legend, Dick Whittington heard the bells here, calling him back to the City of London in 1392, then becoming Lord Mayor of London. We've moved away from the church slightly and we can see before us the statue to Captain John Smith, who was born in Lancashire in 1580 and played a very important role in the establishment of the Jamestown colony, the first permanent English settlement in North America. The statue was erected in 1960 to commemorate the 350th anniversary of the return of Smith to England in the winter of 1609-10. Smith died in 1631 and is buried in St Sepulchre without Newgate, just up the road in Holborn, and a place that we've seen many times. The church is very close to the old Newgate prison and the present day Old Bailey and the present day Holborn Viaduct, one of the favourite pubs of the Flaneurs. In medieval times, the Royal Processional routes from the Tower of London to the Palace of Westminster would include Cheapside. During state occasions such as the first entry of Margaret of France into London in September 1299, the conduits of Cheapside customarily flowed with wine. And I dropped in a print here of Cheapside in 1750 to give you an idea of what the church and Cheapside looked like in that time. Now we've made our way into this wonderful church here, and for a few moments we'll just look around the church, and in particular the wonderful stained glass windows by John Hayward. The church underwent extensive repairs after being severely damaged after a bombing raid on the 10th of May 1941. One of the effects of the bombing was to see the church bells crash over 100 feet to the ground. Now these damaged bells were removed shortly after their destruction to Mears and Steinbank's foundry in Whitechapel, which for storage, which we've seen in previous videos, though the company is no longer in business in Whitechapel. Now these are some of the most famous bells in the world. As legend goes, and many of you will probably know this already, no one could call themselves a true Londoner or Cockney if they weren't born within earshot. Though with the urbanisation of London in the 20th and 21st century, increasing population, noise pollution and the soundproofing measures installed in the belfry, the range of the bells is significantly smaller than at its peak. In 1851, the bells could be heard across North and East London, as far as Hackney Marshes, Stratford and Limehouse, with reports that they could also be heard south of the Thames in Southwark. An acoustic study taken place in 2012 shows that this range has shrunk substantially, now confined to the eastern parts of the Square Mile and Shoreditch. The church is notable for some prized possessions: 2 silver cups or chalices with covers and 2 plates are Elizabethan and dated to 1568. 1 chalice is undated but stated to be pre-Reformation. 2 alms dishes are dated 1635 and 1660, and 2 silver flagons are dated 1630, and 2 silver dishes 1684. We've now made it back out to Cheapside, so you can have a look up and down, and you can see really there's not too much traffic around, mainly cyclists. As with many thoroughfares through the City of London, the roads have been narrowed and the pavements have been widened. Let's take one last look at this magnificent church tower by doing our usual panning from the bottom to the top and back down again. We've made our way onto Milk Street. Now Milk Street was the location of the parish church of St Mary Magdalene, which was destroyed in the Great Fire of London 1666, and then of Honey Lane Market and the City of London School, which we've also seen located on Queen Victoria Street in a vlog we did a couple of weeks ago, and a vlog from about 3-4 months ago from the Embankment. And Sir Thomas More, author of Utopia, was born in Milk Street in February 1478, which we also showed in our vlog from Gresham Street, which is very close by, a vlog we did earlier this year. And with the mention of Gresham Street, we must also mention Bread Street as the birthplace of Sir Thomas Gresham. We've now moved over onto Bread Street. Now Bread Street was so named because of the baker's shops that were in the street, particularly near the end, that joined on to Cheapside where we are now. Cheapside was connected to Queen Hythe Dock via Bread Street and Bread Street Hill. The reason was that sacks of flour were delivered to the Queen Hythe by boat and conveyed up the incline of Bread Street Hill and delivered to the bakers in Bread Street. The street was originally the main north-south route through the Roman fort from Cripplegate. And once again, I've just showed you, probably for about the 6th time, the most famous and most wonderful tree in the City of London. This tree always looks wonderful any time of the day, any time of year. We've made our way into Gutter Lane. It first appears in the 1180s at Godrun Lane, the lane of a person called Guthrun, a wealthy merchant of the time. The name of the lane slowly transformed into Gutter Lane by the 15th century. Robson Street Directory of 1832 shows that Gutter Lane was lined with lots of trades, mainly dominated by clothes and shoe manufacturers and warehouses. We're walking up to the western edges of Cheapside, and very soon we'll see Foster Lane and the Church of St Vedast, which again we've seen in a previous vlog. And very soon we'll see St Paul's, which we've seen in many vlogs. Now at this extremely busy junction, so we've got New Change and St Martin's the Grand, and we've got also Newgate Street. Before we finish our walk on Cheapside, let's talk about its many literary connections. William Shakespeare used Cheapside as a setting for several bawdy scenes in Henry IV Part 1. A reference to it is also made in Henry VI Part 2 in a speech by the rebel Jack Cade. Thomas Middleton's play A Chase Maid in Cheapside 1613 satirises and celebrates the citizens of the neighbourhood during the Renaissance, when the street hosted the city's goldsmiths. William Wordsmith, in his 1797 poem The Reverie of Poor Suzanne, imagines a naturalistic Cheapside of past, and Jane Austen, in her 1813 novel Pride and Prejudice, characterises Cheapside as a London neighbourhood frowned upon by the landed elite. Now let's finish on that highbrow note as we can view St Paul's Churchyard and the magnificent St Paul's Cathedral. So thanks for joining us on this walk, and it's goodbye from the Anglican Flaneurs. We hope to see you again soon.